Ready, Butch? Okay, we're live.
All right, welcome everyone to the City Council meeting for Monday, August 9th, 2021. We have roll call, Madam Clerk, to establish quorum.
Melissa Green.
Here.
Harry Meyer.
Present.
Laura Jo Smalley.
Here.
Terry McClung.
I'm here.
Autumn Slane.
Here.
And Bill Lott is absent with notice. We have 5.
All right, if we could have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I have a couple of items. Get a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a couple of items to note and change. Item number 2, still in the process of working on that, so that will be deleted, deferred. Item number 4, same thing, we'll defer that. And I have an item number 8, public mask ordinance in public buildings.
Say again what that was, Butch, please.
It's a mask resolution, I'm sorry, I said ordinance, mask resolution in public buildings. Anybody else have anything? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as
So moved.
amended?
Second.
All right, Mr. McClung made the motion, and Harry seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Get a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Any discussions, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have a couple of items on the planning, under commissions. We still got a vacancy on the Planning Commission, position number 7. Also one on position 4 on the hospital. We just received a letter from Greg Moon on his resignation from the CAPC, effective immediately. And we got a position on Parks, position 7. That brings us to public comments. We got 3 minutes per person.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Rain Equine, and I am here to speak on the cups. I would like to see our community really have some forward thinking on this issue, possibly put together some impact studies. Over-tourism is a thing. If you haven't discovered it on your own yet, there's plenty of documentaries out there. People around the world are overburdened with tourism, and we're trying to find a balance, and I know that housing is a huge issue. We all met last week at the library for the tent meeting, and I just think that I would like to see more thought put in long-term to how much of our city we keep giving away. I would like to see our residential areas being kept sacred. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know if that was a question or something. I know there are a lot of people who feel this way, and I know I speak for at least a handful of people that would have been here tonight. They were confused about the time and the meeting. I don't know why. Thank God Autumn corrected me when I contacted her. Anyway, I just would like to say I would like to see a restriction. I would like to see a permanent restriction. I don't want to keep wondering what part of our community is going to be taken next. I know that we have to grow with the times, but we need a balance. We need a forward-thinking map for our community. I'd like to see a why put together. Why does our community even exist? Come to Eureka. We've got some shops where you can buy some stuff. That's not what got me here. What got me here is come to Eureka, where we believe in a quality of life. We believe that we have things to offer here that maybe the rest of the world could learn from. We have some things here, some natural resources that you can't find anywhere. Who wants a water park? They pay people thousands of dollars to come and design a water park for them to recreate what we have here. And I know that tourism is a huge thing. We've always been a tourist destination, but we need to maintain our community, or else we're just going to be like every other tourist destination. Another Carmel, another Telluride. Please consider limiting the amount of living structures that are for commercial use. I was involved in the Census Bureau this year, and it broke my heart to see so many homes just empty homes, nobody in them. And I spent most of my time working for the census at home, tracking down owners and landowners that don't live here. We don't get their vote. We don't get input of the people that live here in the town and in our community can't afford to live here. Thank you.
All right, no one else? That concludes our public comments, which brings us up to our next meeting, or our next item on the agenda. Madam Clerk, didn't we read the ordinance 2308 for the third time the last time?
Actually, we jumped from the motion to read it to the motion to approve.
So we need to have a motion to, what exactly?
If we could redo the third step, move to suspend the rules and read it by title only, and then actually read the title and then approve it, it would be complete.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. McClung?
is that what the city attorney wants us to do?
That would be an appropriate step, yes.
Do you have the title with you?
All right. Okay, so what we need is a motion to suspend the rules and read ordinance 2308 on its third reading. Okay, Ms. Green?
I move that we approve ordinance number 2308 by title only on its third reading. And I don't have the ordinance to read.
No, suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules.
Yeah, and read by title only, okay. So,
Okay.
all right, got a motion. Do I have a
Second.
Second. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Myers seconded. Any discussion? Okay, roll call. As soon as we get our roll call. Pete?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
No.
4-0. Ordinance number 2308, an ordinance of the City of Eureka Springs declaring June 19th of each year to be a recognized holiday in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, known as Juneteenth.
Okay, get a motion to approve ordinance 2308 on its third and final reading.
I move that we approve ordinance 2308 on its third and final reading.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Green made second, or motion, and Ms. Lane second. Any further discussion?
Mr. McClung?
No.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
4-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, that brings us up to our next item. Under new business, a resolution for a 9-month moratorium on tourist lodging in R2 and R3. Mr. Weaver, we have a little item in there. Do you want to talk about that for a moment? Or get a motion to discuss?
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Mr. Weaver?
When this was discussed last week, our last meeting, there was some discussion of when, if this was going to take effect, when it was to take effect, and how it was to take effect. There was some discussion as to making it active as of midnight on the 26th, the 27th, so as to prevent anyone from hurriedly filing something. It also was discussed leaving it open to people that had an open contract who had not yet filed to come before the commission, that they might be able to, or that someone who sold a currently allowed property to continue it with the new owner, even during the moratorium. All of those present certain problems if we were to apply the ordinance, and there you do have one that laying in front of you that does that, as far as setting it up to start on the 26th of July and going forward. But I caution you that if you do those to allow people in who have a contract, that you may be allowing people an opportunity to commit fraud. If they want to come in and claim that they had a contract already signed, there's no way of the city to determine the age of that contract. If they've got a piece of paper that they went out and did, someone suggested, a couple of people I think suggested maybe that night, that a contract would have notary seals, and the notary would say when it was signed or what date it was signed. But actually, under Arkansas law, a contract doesn't require a notary seal. A lot of contracts do require them because the bank won't accept them or somebody else won't accept them. But if I want to create a contract with somebody, all I have to do is take out a piece of paper, write my agreement, and if they agree, sign it. I don't even have to date it. It just has to have a meeting of the minds, what my mind and their mind wants. And so there's no way to say that contract was written yesterday or 3 weeks from now and backdated potentially. Ann was good enough to help me produce another one that makes it effective as of today, and it leaves out the language about those two exceptions, I guess you would call them, as far as allowing someone who had an open contract to continue. I don't know what your feelings are, but I'm telling you, I think that to leave it open to people, given my suspicious nature of people after practicing law for the last 29 years, I suspect people would take advantage of the system if they really wanted to get something passed during the moratorium.
Mr. McClung?
I mean, I have no problem with what you suggest. And I don't know if anybody at City Hall knows if there's been any applications made since the last meeting. The only thing that I want to be sure of is that if Joe Blow, that owns house 123 X Street, already has an existing conditional use permit to operate as tourist lodging, and he gets a contract on his house next week to sell it, and that person wants to continue that, then it has to be approved, but that's allowable. You follow me, sir?
I understand what you're saying, and I think that there's less of a problem, certainly with what you're suggesting, than trying to say anybody can come in if they had a contract.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way, that's what practice has always been, but what you spoke of earlier sounded like you didn't want to approve that.
Well, I think there's some issue to doing that, but it's not as big an issue. it's not as big a risk. I think a court could potentially look at that and say you're being unfair because you are allowing it and the law doesn't actually grandfather the new owner, for lack of a better term. The new owner doesn't have a right to the new
Right, he has
to the status.
he has to
come
get
in.
that approval
Yes.
from the planning commission or the board of zoning adjustment, whichever it is. But, you know, it's something that historically, we've not, as long as the i's were dotted and the t's crossed, we've never, ever turned anyone down.
We did about 8 years ago, I think.
Well, I was here then, and I don't recall it. You'll have to refresh my memory.
I believe it was about eight or 9 years ago, there was a house, and it wasn't tourist lodging in that instance, it was some other conditional use.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you off the top of my head, I could go back and look it up.
Well, we're referring to tourist lodging.
Yes.
I think it's only fair to any resident that has that, that he or she can sell that property, you know, with the understanding that the chances are good
Mr. Mayor,
that the city is going to follow
may I
up with
speak?
it.
Of course, the resolution says moratorium on approval of new conditional use permits, and and I would think that someone who is buying one that's already there, that's a new permit. We're talking about attrition here, I think. We've probably got too many. We've got plenty of beds in town, and frankly, we don't need these sorts of businesses, and it's a business. It's not a residence. We don't need these sort of businesses in residential neighborhoods.
Ms. Lane?
Where is the difference of these two resolutions? I only see the difference of dates.
That's
Is that correct? Okay. So then what's the difference?
They're not really drafted differently. They both would prevent anyone from coming in and claiming that they had a prior contract, the way they're written.
So then why are we changing the dates?
The dates has to do with the third problem, the potential that a court would find that you are backdating a law, which is not normally allowed.
No.
Thank you.
Any other, Ms. Slane? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Ms. Moley.
Ms. McSlane?
I'll get the right one here in a moment.
I like this revised version, and I think that, the sentence about before granting additional CUPs, it's pretty clear. I don't think it's going to cause any great confusion.
Ann, did you have something?
Yes, it is true that historically, people who have existing CUPs can apply. New literally means new.
Right.
And the existing CUPs are not addressed here. If I'm not mistaken, the general understanding is literally new.
Be careful.
And
That's
if
all I'm
I'm
saying.
mistaken, I think this is a perfect time to clear it up because I'm sure there will be a tangle. So,
If it's
Mr. Weaver-
confusing to me, it could be.
Well, I think if I can interrupt here too, the third paragraph says, before granting additional, which implies to me new. The city council believes, blah, 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 specifically the need to code change it before granting additional conditional use permits.
And Mr. Weaver?
I think that language could be interpreted by a court to say that an additional would be an increase in the number, and it's likely that based on what's going on here right now, if it did end up in front of a court of law, the court would look for language and for the discussion here for interpretation. The legislative history of a law is looked at when it's unclear what is exactly meant, and if there was an argument over whether it would allow the increase or not increase, if you allowed someone to simply continue where there has already been that use before. This language that the mayor just read, certainly, and the discussion now at the table would certainly foster the idea that if there are 12 now, which I don't know what the number is, but say there's 12, and you want to sell one and keep that one as a conditional use, that there would still only be 12, and therefore it would be a legitimate exercise to request the Planning Commission to act, even though this law was in place. But if you wanted to take and make a 13th one, this would prevent it.
Understand?
That answer your question, Mr. McClung?
Well, if it confuses me, it's going to confuse others. And if the Planning Commission or the Board of Zoning Adjustment, if they hear one, if somebody comes in with that request and they turn it down, and there you go.
Ms. Green?
Can we not just change the title to say excluding existing CUPs for tourist lodging?
Still has to be heard.
That language is, the problem with doing that is technically it's not an existing one if it sells. That's what the purpose of a conditional use permit is to create eventually attrition of something that you don't want in that particular zoning district, is to remove it eventually.
Well, usually they come and get it before they sell it.
Yeah, and if that was done in the normal form and fashion, it probably would pass muster with this.
Okay.
I'd also, too, in response to Mr. McClung's comments, and just because we know that historically, traditionally, that the existing CUPs have always been granted, that doesn't mean that they will necessarily.
Right.
There could be some other reason for whatever reason for denying it, but it wouldn't be, it would have to be spelled out, whatever reason that is. Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to assign this resolution a number and read it for passage.
Second.
I would suggest, before you do that, that you revise your motion to pick one of the two. So that we're approving the right one.
This latest one with the least pages.
The one for August 9th.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
August 9th to May 6th.
All right, would you hold off on your motion just a moment for
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Slane to?
just one more.
And I have
Sorry.
something too.
If somebody is operating a business out of their home and tourist lodging, and they sell their house, does this prevent them from getting a new one? The new person buying?
Now repeat your question again.
So if somebody's operating a tourist lodging out of their home and is selling, and that new person comes in to buy, that new person has to then go apply and is one of these new people. So we're going to say no?
No.
No, that's exactly what we've been discussing with Mr. McClung.
Okay. And
That this will not necessarily, it's not an automatically approval, but it's not an automatically denial. They can still be heard, and historically, they've always been approved.
Right.
This is strictly for new
Just new.
conditional uses.
and historically, they usually apply before the sale because
This exact-
It's
might
always
not
a
be
condition of,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
condition
Yeah,
of the sale.
Okay.
All right, somebody else had a, is that it?
No, that's
One more thing.
Okay, Mr. McClung?
Well, Ms. Green, she has several units that are of this type, I believe, or don't you, in two or
Mine
three?
are all commercial now, and one is a grandfather, but I have had a CUP.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just, those that have them, my concern is there too, is that,
Yeah.
they've always had that understanding that they would, move forward if somebody that buys their property, and right, it's a contingency in the contract. It should be. If the realtor's of any count, it would be a contingency in the contract. I just want it to be clear to the public that it's out there, and, there may be a little feeling of that maybe it possibly could not get approved. It's kind of leaves me that way, but that's just me.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Smiley?
We've had a motion and a second to proceed, and if we're going to drag this conversation out endlessly, we need to do something else.
No, I think I think what I'm hearing is a call for a question. We got a motion and a second. All in favor of signing this? Oh, wait, we got I'm sorry.
Two things. Is there a second on calling the question?
I seconded it.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
I'll second calling the question.
Do you want to vote?
Yeah. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, that was just for calling the question, so.
And
Now-
who was the second on the motion to assign a number, please?
I was.
Thank you. So do you want roll call or?
No, well, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And what will the number be on this, please?
The resolution number will be 798,
Thank you.
a resolution imposing a 270-day moratorium on approval of new conditional use permits for tourist lodging in R2 and R3 zones. Whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, in an effort to protect the residential zones of Eureka Springs, and whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, believes it to be in the best interest of its effort to protect the residential zones of Eureka Springs, to allow for a period of 270 days, beginning at midnight on August 9, 2021, to study the issues involved in protecting current residential zones. And whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, believes specifically there may be a need for code changes before granting additional conditional use permits for tourist lodging in R2 and R3 zones. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that Section 1, a moratorium is hereby enacted for a period of 270 days on acceptance of applications for new conditional use permits for tourist lodging in R2 and R3 zones, beginning at midnight, August 9, 2021, until May 6, 2022, unless otherwise modified by the City Council.
I think that motion was to read for approval, was it? Was it
Yes.
not? Okay. Is that correct? Ann, you got that?
Well, yes, traditionally we vote on it, but
No, we don't.
Well, all right, just make sure everybody understands. Okay, all in favor of the motion of the resolution number 798 as read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's so moved.
thank you.
All right, that brings us up to, speaking of bed and breakfast, ordinance for new language regarding conditions and definitions for bed and breakfast. So Ms. Green and Mr. Ott sponsored this one. Get a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All right, Ms. Green made a motion, Ms. Smiley second. We have in front of you an ordinance for the planning regarding the definitions of bed and breakfast. So, Ms. Green?
We did not approve must live on site. We approved it to there. We did not approve last week when the business is operating. We took that out of there for the reason, kind of like why we're having the moratorium. We want this to be a home-based business. We don't want them to be able to live somewhere else. And that's kind of what was happening, is our bed and breakfasts were turning into tourist lodgings because no one was no longer living there. We passed this last week without when the business is operating.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure I understand what she's saying.
The ordinance that we passed last week did not have the verbiage when the business is operating. It ended when shall live on site.
So that would be their residence, right?
It would be their residence. That's what a bed and breakfast is. It's a
Did you bring-
home-based.
Did you bring that with you?
I did not, so I would say let's table this, and I'll bring it with the next
Oh,
time.
boy.
Mr. Weaver,
Well,
what do you have? I don't,
I don't-
Madam Clerk, what's,
I'm happy to go back and listen if that was actually part of the motion.
No,
It's not reflected in the minutes, so
Right.
I would have to actually go back and listen to it again.
we didn't, we read it and it wasn't in there, and then that's what we presented.
The wording for this came directly from what came to the table. That's just information.
Okay.
this was, the minutes state, Ms. Green moved to accept the recommendations and forward them to the city attorney for an ordinance.
And that wasn't in it. I know what we passed in planning, and I know what we gave you. And we did not want when the business is operating in that.
Well, this is the time to discuss that. We're at
Right.
the council, so
Okay.
we don't need to defer it. We can discuss that.
Okay.
We can
Mrs.
just-
Smoley?
May I make a motion to amend the drafted ordinance to remove the words "when the business is operating"?
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to amend it. Any discussion on that amendment? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Mr. McClellan?
So that's 4-1.
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion on this ordinance? Somebody want to make a motion to assign this ordinance a number and read it for,
I'll make a motion that we assign this ordinance a number and read it on its first reading.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Is that Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. McClung, you have comments?
Wasn't that left out so, if people are on vacation, it wasn't construed that that it was not,
It just says they must live on, this says they shall live on site, means they have to live on site. Doesn't mean they can't go on vacation, they can't go
that
to...
they can close 3 months out of the year
Sure,
and
sure, that's-
travel and do whatever they want to do.
Absolutely, that's their business.
That's what I want
Yeah,
to make
if
sure
they
that's,
only want to be open on Saturday and Sunday, that's their business.
okay, I just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we got a motion and a second to read this ordinance on its first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved.
The ordinance number will be 2309, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Eureka Springs, Arkansas Municipal Code regarding bed and breakfast. Whereas the Planning Commission of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas has made a comprehensive study and review of Title 14 of the Municipal Code, and whereas, in the opinion of the City Council, certain changes should be made to the code. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that Section 1, Municipal Code Section 14.08.03B, Use Conditions and Exceptions, should be amended to read as follows, quote, "Bed and breakfast establishments and boarding houses may be allowed in residentially zoned districts as a conditional use. Regardless of the zoning district in which the property is located, the owner of the bed and breakfast or boarding house shall certify in the application that the owner or resident manager shall live on site. The owner or resident manager contact information must be certified each year when the business license is renewed. Off-street parking for B&B guests and manager must be provided and utilized." Section 2, the definition of bed and breakfast contained in Section 14.08.13 definitions should be amended to read as follows, quote, "a dwelling or area containing one or more structures, at least one of which is occupied by an owner or manager on site, where, for compensation, lodging and meals are provided, generally no longer than 30 days per guest, but not more than 5 units. For the purpose of this section, on-site shall be defined as adjoining, i.e. sharing a boundary, and shall not include properties separated by a city street, roadway, green space, or alley," end quote. Section 3, repeal clause. "All ordinances, resolutions, and parts thereof in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict."
Thank you. All right, that brings us up to our next item.
Do you want to approve the first reading?
Oh, do what?
You want to approve the first
Oh,
reading?
I'm sorry, yes, it does.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2309 on its first reading.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Ms. Green, second by Ms. Smalley to approve ordinance 2309 on its first reading. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Almost messed that one up, too. All right, now we're ready to go on to our next item. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, that brings us up to discussion of adjusting speed limits on city-owned streets by Ms. Smalley. Get a motion to discuss?
Yes.
Motion,
Oh, I move.
okay.
I move to discuss the adjusting of speed limits on city-owned streets.
Second.
All right. Ms. Smalley?
What I want to do is not let go of the momentum we've had. There's a lot of citizen interest in this and in public safety in general concerning roads and sidewalks, et cetera, as well as among council people and some of the city employees as well. I have a proposal I have been working on to draft a number of safety issues and breaking it down into doable sections, so it's not one overwhelming proposal, or one overwhelming, not resolution, ordinance. What I'd like to do is present the outline at the next upcoming meeting concerning this in particular, the adjustment of city-owned or city street speed limits. And along with that, I propose that at the first meeting of September, that Planning Commission, us, and any interested city offices be available for a meeting, a workshop before the meeting for public comment. So what my proposal is here concerning road limits, and this is a starting spot, this isn't something...
Before you get too far into that, you do realize what you're proposing is not a legislative matter, but an executive issue.
I did not know that.
This is an executive situation where the mayor, along in conjunction with the Public Works and the police department, establish speed limits on various streets.
Okay.
When it's public, when you start legislating ordinances dictating legislative issues on speed limits, you run into a lot of different problems. I think Mr. Weaver, I don't know, Mr. Weaver, you want to elaborate a little bit on...
If you do what you're proposing and the city council is required to set the speed limits on the various streets by taking the mayor's executive power to do that and making it your choice as a legislative body, you are giving up your legislative immunities.
Right.
And you could create headaches for all 6 of you, as well as for trying to fight down an issue that honestly is traditionally left to the executive because it is something that takes a unified front to set speed limits, and the mayor has the most direct contact as the chief law enforcement officer of the city with the police chief, and that's where most of the authority and understanding of should this street be 20 miles an hour or should it be 30 miles an hour or should it be 40 miles an hour comes from.
Okay.
Is from the officers' experiences and what they report to their chief, and then what the chief is able to share directly with the mayor.
Okay. Well,
And-
Mr. Weaver, I appreciate the instruction, because obviously that was something I was lacking in. And Mr. Mayor, that was certainly not my intention to usurp any of your authority in this matter. So I request that we just simply withdraw the item.
Okay.
I would like, sorry. I feel like when these matters come up, it's obviously something that our community has addressed and talked about to all of us. What do we do about that? And what do we say we're doing? Because I feel like I don't want to look like we're not doing anything. You know what I mean? We brought this has been a topic of conversation for over a month now.
And things have been taken care of. That's the whole purpose of
Okay.
public comments. They're addressing it, and I'll respond to that with the police department and public works. The city council doesn't need to be involved with legislative, with issuing issues like that. As the city attorney says, you start losing your
Right.
immunity. Now, if you want to be responsible, and so if there's an accident, you get sued, you're personally responsible for that.
Okay.
And I still have the legislative immunity. Mr. McClung,
What we can do as council people in public, in our council comments, we can make reference to it, to the mayor, and tell him how we feel about it, and, the leanings that we have and what we would like to see happen. You certainly can voice your opinion as to what you feel and lean on him the best you can to see it your way. But other than that, we can't do anything.
Thank you.
Lean on him.
I know how to do that.
all right. I think the motion been withdrawn.
Yes, I've withdrawn the motion.
Yeah. That brings us down to discussion of the downtown firehouse, fire station number 3, and the auditorium basement with Mr. McClung.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
In your packet, you have a floor plan and an elevation. I didn't get you the full set of documents. They're actually, right now, being able to go out for bids. And we're actually trying to work to see with Nabholz, trying to get this involved with the Public Works and the auditorium as far as there being a possible construction manager. We got a grant from the Rural Development Authority. I think it was a little under $40,000 for this project. What we had originally talked about was being able to use this as possible a city council meeting. Right now, in half of it, we would be able to seat 28 people without a problem. As you can see right now, we've got approximately 6 people in the audience, and that includes our audiographer and videographer up there. So, as a rule, this would handle most meetings, and if need be, the fire truck can always be taken out and actually extended up to 50 people, which gives it a much more confined and, I guess I hate to say intimate, but a better environment than sitting out here where we can relate and see with people. Similar to what we had up in the courtroom, but up there we could only have about 12 people, if that. So we're hoping, at this point, I've gotten some preliminary estimates, and I'm hoping, and that was pretty, I'm not sure where it's going to come in, but we've still got to put this out for bid unless the Rural Development Association allows us to work with Nabholz in conjunction, because they are going to have, hopefully, and that kind of segues back into the auditorium and Public Works. We should be able to have our final cost estimates sometime next week. In your packet, you'll also see on the auditorium, again, nothing has changed from our last talk about our last meetings as far as the scope of work goes within the auditorium. Basically, the scope of work is putting in the elevator with access off of First Street, and then also redesigning the toilet. There's a toilet back in the near the entrance on the ground floor and making that a handicap toilet. So the drawings that you have in front of you give you an overall plan, plus a little detailed plan of the elevator and the ground floor and the upper floors, along with the bathroom ADA plan, and then some more of the details and showing details of the ADA. We're met today with a site civil contractor at Public Works and finalizing that project. And we're hoping, we had most of the subcontract bids were due in last Thursday into Nabholz. Nabholz is acting as a construction manager for us, which will meet the bidding requirements. And so by next week, we're hoping we'll be able to get everything all put together, and then they'll be able to give us a price for this. And also maybe by that time, I'll have a definite opinion from the Rural Development Association on whether or not we can use them for the construction manager of the firehouse number 3. If not, we're also, I think we're putting it out in the paper for advertisement anyway. So, Mr. McClung?
First question is regarding across the street. This is all new. This is something we had not discussed on this table in a long time when it was put to bed, so to speak, and we went with the basement. That was the plan. So you're bringing this all up again, brand new. Let me finish.
Okay, I am.
So I'm really not sure what brought this up again, because the intent was to use the basement, and that's a duplication of space. Now, I hate to see the loss of any fire truck downtown. And I'm not, what size can we fit in that space? It doesn't show, it's 46 feet overall. And what size is the truck that we have in there now?
Mr. McClung, it still will fit the fire truck. I'm sorry I didn't put the fire truck in there, but it will still fit in there. It's a fire truck that's in there right now.
Fit one truck in there, yes.
It's the same thing that they have right now.
Is there only one in there now?
There's only one in there now.
Oh, there's only one space being used?
Only one space is being used.
I did not know that.
And also going back, Mr. McClung, the council was aware that we had received a grant. I had informed them, and they had passed a notice that would go ahead and proceed with the grant. Now, we got caught up, I did, because of the COVID, of not being able to put this back out for bid again, put this out for bid. Now, whether the council wants to use it for city council meetings, that's up to them. The grant is for the fire station. This is just an option for us to be able to use the space instead of us being up here or downstairs, which in my opinion is still not a suitable place to have meetings, and to get us out of the auditorium lobby, which again wasn't the best
No, that's
solution
not
either.
practical. I agree, that's not practical.
So this to me was the best thing. What was put to bed was the use of the community center that was brought up. Now the council said, no, we don't want to do that at all. I never heard the council saying, we don't want to do this as that, and we don't want the grant. We're going to turn the grant back.
We did it in the respect that we voted on doing it in the basement. The basement was our choice
We still had
for
the
the meeting
grant,
hall.
so it's still up to the commission.
Yeah, sure.
To the council. Ms. Green?
Well, both plans are really nice, and I thank you for bringing them. I know we're working at the CAPC on a 5-year plan for the auditorium, and it does include working with the city with the elevator. In your opinion as an architect, are you saying you don't like the basement as a meeting place?
Not for city council meetings.
Okay.
Ms. Smoley?
I really like this double two-pronged plan. I think that the fire station will make a great meeting space, not only for council meetings, but other meetings, such as when we had the gentleman from the Municipal League up here talking to us. It gives us a good non-echoing place where we can have open discussion. I really like what's planned down here in the basement. I was looking at the walls and all, lightening the walls from black to something brighter. It's going to make it a much more cheerful spot. And by adding appropriate handicap bathroom and with the elevator, that reopens up the space to be used for community dances or art shows or any number of other really good uses for it, other than, a meeting space. There's just so many other things we can do with it. So I appreciate the work on both of those.
Mr. McClellan?
Yeah, is the, in the auditorium basement, you've still got the sink that's existing. Is that going to still be a kitchen area with the ability to prep or at least to hold meals or something?
Yeah, that's the plan right now.
So there'll be some wiring improvement such as that?
Yeah.
And then in the old shower rooms, are they just going to be used as storage, or are they going to be turned back into bathrooms too?
Right now, that's just being used as storage. There's no plan for that.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Oh, the showers are still there.
Oh, I know they're still there. I know what it's like.
It's not, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you had any intentions of
We
doing
can shower
any of
after
that.
meetings.
It's a great place to go. Clean up.
All right, any other comments, questions? Mr. Meyer?
Butch, I do remember when this happened, and you said, well, we got the grant to fix this building, we can use it for meetings or not, or we can decide to do something down here, but we can get
I'm
this.
sorry.
If we can get this done right away, this would be great. It'd be wonderful.
Well, you have to blame the architect. He's pretty slow about getting work done.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
He's hardly ever there.
that's true. That's the reason why he's not getting things done. All right, any further questions? I will let you know as soon as I hear anything from, regarding both these projects, actually all three projects. So, all right, that brings us up to discussion of Eureka Springs Economic Development. Ms. Lane.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
So last meeting, I wanted to really address our housing situations, our job situations, and kind of how that all ties in together. Laura Jo and the mayor and I went to this meeting. It's called Big Tent Topics at the library. They had a big tent outside, and they're going to have these once a month, and the whole community is going to get together, or whoever wants to join, and talk about what we can do to better ourselves and better our situations. I think the overall conversation stopped at housing and more started with community. Everybody really wanted to join together and really help this situation, whether it was, volunteering time or investing or wanting just to rent a place. So what they were saying they needed was apartment complex. Overall, that was the general, how do we get more housing in the most efficient way, and really what they're looking for is 300 to 500 square foot. Nothing huge. Tiny homes were definitely talked about. Mobile homes were talked about. There were concerns for square footage restrictions. I did not have time to look that up, so I don't know what those are. They've been struggling with owning and financing, so they're just basically needing rental situations. We're needing to either do owner financing. We also talked about how Eureka houses and businesses are escalating every year, and they're fearful that we're outcosting our residents, which I absolutely am echoing everything Rain has said today, because I think these are just on the forefront of all of our minds. There's very little laws protecting our renters. They're finding themselves in less than optimal living situations. We're just needing to, what they're really asking for is maybe an ordinance to elevate what they're what the rules and standard of living. They're also asking for grants to find investors and maybe tax breaks, which I don't know about any of these, what our role and how we can do any of this, but where I feel like we can help is our zoning ordinance, 2184, requests for permanent zoning as well. And I also feel like we should rejuvenate the mayor's task force, and I would be more than willing to head up a few conversations to get the ball rolling about what we can do and what is available. I'm done. Whatever you guys want to say now.
Ms. Green?
I echo Autumn's sentiments. In planning, we're pretty strapped with a bunch of stuff, but we have areas where there's mobile home parks, and we don't have to look at a mobile home park as it's some trashy area. There's beautiful mobile homes, and one of the things, and I know this probably isn't appropriate, in America, a lot of times we don't look at the jobs people do, we look at the money they make. And I think one of the things we can do in economic development is quit making people feel like they're poor, and let's start working with them. And let's, if you look at like Vail and Breckenridge, they built communities for their service people, and their service people were like police, teachers. Well, here our service people are people that work in our tourism field, and I think we should think about that, and it starts in planning, and I agree. And do you still have the economic development?
Yeah, we haven't met in long because of the COVID.
Okay. I think Autumn would be great. She's young to start with, and I think this is something we need to keep on our burner and start working towards it, because we are out of priced in this town. And that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing.
Mr. McClung?
Mr. Mayor, did you discuss at that meeting what the economic development had looked at in the past, and that we have found that the cost of construction was prohibitive to get the rents appropriate?
That was brought up. I didn't talk about what had been discussed in the past, but I did mention that the construction cost was not
okay.
suitable, and even
It might
buying
have been
places.
premature, I suppose.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
I said, and buying places and fixing them up puts it out of the realm of a lot of people also.
That's the problem, is that, there's not a person in town that doesn't want that, and truly, the need is tremendous. It really is. We have logistic problems with train and things of that nature, as far as apartment complexes and that, and building, at a square footage price that's affordable. So, the equation is very difficult to solve. I certainly, when the Economic Development Commission continues, I certainly want to continue as part of that. And anybody is welcome as far as that goes. And if anybody, any kind of ideas would certainly be listened to, but it's a toughie. It's a toughie to get investors for, because, as much as they want you to have it, if it doesn't turn a profit, they're not going to do it. That's just kind of how it goes.
Mr. Meyer?
If wages kept up with inflation from 1973, the minimum wage would be $25 an hour. That's the reason why people can't afford to buy a home here. That's the reason why people can't afford to rent or raise a family. Labor has just been left behind, and it's going to continue to go that way unless there's some big changes nationwide. We're just part of the national trend. We're not anything special. If we can do something special, that would be great. But, if somebody that works here can't afford to buy a $50,000 house, in other words, they can't get a loan for it, How are we going to help them out? You know, I'm not optimistic.
No, unfortunately, me neither.
Ms. Green?
Well, I'm kind of back on the mobile homes. You can, and that's not, I'm not saying that's where people should live, but you can get beautiful, brand-new mobile homes. I mean, they're gorgeous for like 30, 35,000. And I think if planning developed more of a motor home area or mobile home area and made it attractive for families, I mean, I think that might be a start of a solution. And they're pre-built and ready to go. We don't have to build an apartment.
Ms. Lane?
I totally agree with the mobile home. I think even tiny homes. And where do I look to find that?
I'll send you some.
Okay.
Is it appropriate for me to just send her some information on tiny homes? I've been looking at them for years. I will.
Okay. What about the city regulations? That's what I'm,
There's no minimum square footage requirement.
okay.
There's a problem with location of mobile homes. We only allow them right now in the industrial park,
Well,
But we can develop more.
Well, is a
Planning
tiny
Commission can
home
present
considered a mobile home?
No.
No.
Okay.
Well,
If they're on.
a mobile home,
Right,
the
yeah.
tiny homes, the ones that are on wheels would be a mobile home.
Would be a mobile, okay.
Mr. McClung?
Have you priced tiny homes? Did you? You know what the ones
Yeah.
sold for up on Wall Street?
Oh, no. These are the ones that are, I think I.
What, a Dirksen building?
No, these are, they're,
A friend of mine has a Dirksen building. He has $60,000 in it. That's his home. I mean, that's just, and it's 500 square feet.
right. Well,
It's a Dirksen building.
the ones that I'm going to send her are in the 40 to 45,000. I mean, they're not anything huge, Terry, and they're not anything great, but yeah, that would be appropriate. I know when Glenn started those up there, he had planned on them being under 100,000. He couldn't do it, you know, the cost of materials and labor.
Also, the size of those are almost 1,000 square feet.
Right.
or
Now, the
more.
first two sold quick, and they were lower. I think they were in the 80s.
They were like, no, they were like
700.
120.
Ms.
700 square.
Smoley?
One thing that concerns me about promoting mobile home or the tiny homes, I love tiny homes aesthetically, but per square foot, they cost substantially more than even a small, two-bedroom, one-bath home.
They
So-
run $400 to $500 a square foot.
Right. So it is not necessarily a wise expenditure of money for somebody to purchase that home as far as what they'll get out of it when they're ready to retire.
Well, and if we've got young people living here that want to have a family,
Ms.
they're not
Lane?
going to want to live in one of those for very long.
Yeah.
Well,
Ms. Lane?
what can we do then? I guess I'm just here again at another,
Let's start some zoning for mobile homes.
I think, Planning Commission's an excellent
and then
place to
that's
start.
planning, okay.
That definitely would be, the planning commission would have to go through that and find planning or zoning, and again, you may end up with a lot of the people, the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. That's what started it one time.
Right.
Now, they may change, so we'll have to see what the planning commission comes up with as far as locations.
Okay. What
It's a
about
start.
any tax breaks?
We also, again, Mr. McClung can probably jump in on this one, is finding a large enough area that would be suitable for a mobile home park.
Right. What about tax breaks for people willing to build? I have a couple of people that literally bought land and are willing to do something. They're just asking for something to say, okay, I don't have to pay taxes or property taxes for the next 5 years. I mean, how do you get something like that done?
Mr. Weaver?
That would have to be approached to the state legislature.
Okay.
That could not be done on a local
On
level.
a local, okay. Okay,
Yeah, that's a legislative matter. You can't, cities can't forgive taxes or incentives on that. I do have somebody else who talked about building some small houses and then putting up the some of these small RVs. But again, those are considered mobile homes, and you know, whether the planning commission would go along with it, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in the task force, could we maybe have one person from the planning commission? I hate to like give them one more thing to do, but,
I can ask the
I
planning
can meet
commission.
with them. I mean,
I can ask the planning commission to put it on their agenda and start looking for, look and see how they want to address mobile homes.
We'll be glad to do it.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. I lost my agenda here.
Number 8 is
Is that the mask?
resolution for face masks.
Motion to discuss
There we go.
mask resolution.
Second.
This is something that's just come up to me in the last several days. I don't know how many of y'all get the Democrat Gazette, but during the weekday, they have been showing graphs. And in your packet, there's a graph of how the COVID virus has increased in the state. And it's almost up to where it was in November of 2020. That's pretty scary. I just got a notice today, there's only 8 ICU beds left in the entire state. That's a record-breaking number. Total cases, 405,272. 995 changed since yesterday. Total active cases, 1,100 from yesterday. This is something that is not going to go away. We've been talking about it. I've been mentioning it during the mayor's comments about how important it is to get vaccinations. We've kind of gotten loose with our mask. We let it go back, and I think what was probably a good thing. We thought we were on the downhill side, and we were hoping for it. We don't seem to be that way. I have, and for your own, well, anyway, so this resolution is something, before we could not do that, but in the last week, the court ruled, Judge Fox in Little Rock, that cities can regulate the use of masks on city property. Now, this is not private property, but just city property. And this is in buildings. It's not necessarily going on the outside in Basin Park or in Lake Leatherwood or out in the public. So, but this is something I think we have to do. And this is something that the mask resolution is basically wearing a mask unless you've been vaccinated. And I'd still encourage you, even if you've been vaccinated, to wear a mask. We hear constantly people who've been vaccinated who still get COVID. So it's just for our own protection and it's for your protection. So that's where this resolution is coming from.
Make a motion to sign a number to this resolution and read it for passage.
Second.
Okay, we have any further discussion or comments?
I got one thing to say. The original COVID-19, one person could possibly give 5 other people this virus. This new variant is like chickenpox. One person can infect up to 15 other people. So there's no way there's going to be herd immunity until we have 70% of the population vaccinated.
And I'd also like to make note, too, for the council and for the public, that this is for a period of 90 days, unless otherwise modified by the city council. We may see something happen within 90 days that things may look better, and we may see the graph start going down. If so, the council has the authority to eliminate the mask, and or we may see it going up, and we may want to continue. So this gives us that option, but at least it's for the next 90 days. So, all right, we have a motion and a second to read, assign this a number and read for passage. So all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved.
The resolution number will be 799. A resolution by the City of Eureka Springs regarding the use of masks by unvaccinated persons in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas an outbreak of COVID-19 coronavirus has resulted in an ongoing global pandemic, whereas new outbreaks have recently occurred, significantly increasing the number of hospitalizations, and whereas the wearing of face coverings has been determined scientifically to reduce the infection rate in unvaccinated people, and whereas the United States Supreme Court has long recognized state and local control over the spread of infectious diseases, gave broad leeway in responding to these threats in Jacobson versus Massachusetts, 192 U.S. 11 in 1905, and whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, have in the past encouraged the use of cloth face coverings to curb the spread of COVID-19, and whereas individuals infected with COVID-19 are often asymptomatic and may unknowingly transmit the virus to other individuals, and whereas the health of employees and patrons of government-owned and/or operated facilities are directly threatened by unvaccinated individuals who enter such establishments without facial coverings. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas that, Section 1, upon consultation with various state and local officials, the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas shall require the usage of facial coverings in all locally owned and/or city government facilities in an effort to help curb the spread of COVID-19, in particular to protect the most vulnerable members of our community, as well as to ensure that the hard-won progress made by the citizens of Arkansas in reopening our shared economy is preserved. Section 2, the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas has hereby determined that local law enforcement and other city officials will act in a support capacity to enforce the use of face coverings by unvaccinated individuals upon city premises. Law enforcement acting in such a support capacity shall educate and encourage unvaccinated members of the public who decline to wear facial coverings regarding the efficacy of wearing such coverings. Those unvaccinated individuals still unwilling to wear face masks in city-owned and/or operated facilities shall be informed they may be considered as trespassers. Section 3, all City of Eureka Springs government-owned or operated facilities are to be labeled with a notice requiring unvaccinated individuals to wear face coverings upon entry. Section 4, this resolution shall stay in force for a period of 90 days from its passage unless otherwise modified by the City Council of Eureka Springs. Section 5, severability provision. If any part of this resolution is held to be invalid, the remainder of it shall continue in effect as if such invalid portions never existed. And Section 6, repeal of confliction provisions. All ordinances, resolutions, or orders of the City Council or parts of the same in conflict with this resolution are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict.
All right, thank you. Okay. I want to thank the City Council for following through with that. All right, that brings us up to agenda setting. Anyone? All right, at this point, City Council comments. Ms. Smalley?
I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I came in front of the council as a private citizen complaining loudly about the lack of ADA facilities and access to city abilities, or city facilities to those with physical barriers. I am so excited to see the plans for the fire building, and I sincerely hope that goes through, and also expanding the ability for people to access the lower portion of the auditorium so we could really expand its use to the benefit of all our citizens. So thank you for all the work, and I appreciate it.
Ms. Green?
Sorry I was at another meeting and missed that tent meeting because I would have liked to have gone. And I appreciate you, Ms. Slane, for bringing this up. And I like the discussion that we had tonight. I think it was a good discussion.
Ms. Slane?
Yeah, thank you. Thank everybody on this board. I know that we come every other week, and we've done our homework, and we spend numerous hours trying to find the best solutions to further our community. Thank you, Butch. I totally agree with Laura Jo, with the ADA. That's awesome. Great plans. Thank you.
Mr. Meyer?
I looked up got a copy of all the CUPs that are currently being operated, and 8 were approved since 2018. Previously, there were only 4 approved from 2014 to 2017. So obviously, there's been a little bit of a surge on that, and I think we can probably all agree that we don't need that many. There's plenty of empty hotel rooms.
Earthquake! Earthquake!
Other than that, I hope that all of our public employees are vaccinated. It seems as though that we should have a mandate for like the fire department and the police department, because, you know, if I have a heart attack and the guys come out to pick me up and they're not vaccinated and I get COVID from them, I'm liable to die. I know we had some officers that were out with COVID and some firemen out with COVID, so I hope that can change now that the law is allowed to do that. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. McClung?
Was this agenda setting?
No, we've kind of gone past this. Look,
We
comments.
have?
Did you? Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to add something.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No. I just want to say that the Kate Brothers knocked it out of the park again Friday night at Basin Park. The crowd was good. The music was fabulous, and a whole lot of fun was had by all. It was a real pleasure to be there. I loved it. And I think they did too. They always love to come play here. And so it's a lot of fun. It was a good atmosphere, and I love my town.
All right. I just have a couple of comments. One, I appreciate everything the City Council's done on helping with this, the COVID and the new COVID, and especially with this new mask mandate. Regarding to Mr. Meyer's wish for being able to have everyone vaccinated and mandate for that, I also wish that. And I would encourage anybody who feels that same way to write your legislators, because they have passed legislation banning cities from doing anything of that kind. They've taken a lot away from the home rule, and they won't allow cities to do what we feel is best for the cities. And they're continually whittling down on that. I'm so grateful that Judge Fox ruling on the mask mandate kind of overruled that. And I'm sure that's going to continue, because I know the legislators will appeal that until eventually to at least the state Supreme Court. And I think we'll still find that it is unconstitutional what they tried to do. The other items along with this same line, I hate to be the downer here. I am going to be curtailing the drumming in the park again because of the fear of people being in such close contact. I'm not eliminating parades in the city. I am eliminating any parades coming downtown, down Spring Street. There'll still be parades. The historic automobile cars, the Corvettes and the Volkswagens are still coming to town, but there'll be parades on top of the hill as opposed to coming downtown where the people tend to group together. And especially if y'all have ever been to the parade, please know that, you know, when you're coming down Spring Street, they're just crowds. It's just, you know, elbow to elbow. So, you know, we're not going to do anything. We're going to continue with the music in the park because that is an outdoor open area thing. So last couple of times, people have been real sensitive, I think, in keeping their distances and wearing masks as opposed. And as Mr. McClung said, the Cape Brothers was outstanding. They did a great job, as always, and there's a lot of people there in there. I was a little disappointed to see, you know, not as many masks as I would like, but they were all having a good time, so hopefully there's no serious outbreak there. And again, we are going to, and I will get, we've had an economic development committee, mayor's task force involved. Mr. McClung's been on that, and I'll get Ms. Slane involved also. Because of the COVID, we let that go by like a lot of our committees. But I think we will be getting that started back up again because we do have this housing issue and a lot of other issues that all, you know, we've been working on, as Mr. McClung noted. You know, we didn't get here overnight, and we're probably not going to solve these problems overnight. But if we can take a little bit at a time, maybe we can see some solutions in through here. You know, and we're also not alone. We're seeing this same problem in not only Eureka Springs, but Berryville, Green Forest, and Branson. Harrison and Fayetteville the same way. So, you know, we just got to continue on and try to do the best that we can. So other than that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.